fuck up. It's time to talk business. Jared Taylor, Matt Best, and Evan Hafer proudly present Blackhearted. Sponsored by BlackRifle Coffee Company and Arson Wave.
Well, Jared Taylor has left me here alone to my own demise. And you know what? I just said, fuck it. I'm going to bring in some family members. So today, I've got my cousin, Dirk Hafer, and in his...
Dirk Durham.
Oh, that's... Fuck. Why did I call you Hafer?
I don't know, you said family.
I keep thinking it's Dirk Hafer, not fucking Durham. Sorry, dude. Yeah, so that tells you exactly how much time I spend with my cousin. And then, you guys are domestic partner, right? You guys are...
Yes,
okay.
Just recently.
Right.
It's nice now.
Now that it's official, we can
now
say
that it's official. Right?
Yeah.
No, you guys are partnered where?
we're elk hunting partners.
Elk hunting
Okay.
partners.
And get right up on the mics.
And we've been involved, with elk101.com
Right.
quite a lot.
So the point of this conversation today, guys, is my cousin has a unique look into starting a publication, which was Extreme Elk, right?
Correct.
And he also spends a significant amount of time throughout the year hunting or in the field, maybe in the pursuit of, I guess, that one day when it opens, where you can either, and you can explain it way more in depth. So what we're going to talk today about is starting a publication, and two, these guys are subject matter experts in hunting. I mean, how many times have you won that bugle contest, man?
I've been fortunate enough to win the World Elk Bugling Championship in the men's division 6 times.
Yeah. I knew it was up there. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you guys. You guys do an intro of who you are. So Dirk, you can start. I'll hand it over to you.
I'm Dirk Durham. I live in northern Idaho.
I'm Donnie Drake. I live up in Boise. I'm from Ely, Nevada, though.
Ely, Nevada.
Yes.
Nice. And so Dirk, give us your background. One, where you grew up, how you started hunting, and then kind of how you made that move over to some of the companies that you've been in and the publication side.
Sure. So I grew up in a tiny little town in North Idaho called Weippe. Mm-hmm. Evan, he started out there too as a little kid.
That's right.
And, it's a logging-based community. Folks go to the woods for their meat. Back before it was cool, to eat organic meat. That's just what you did. You go to the woods for your meat. You shoot deer, elk, bear, whatever. And that was just the way of life growing up. If I ever met anybody that said, I don't hunt, well, I thought, wow, what's going on? Why is that guy's weird? They don't hunt? Because it was such that tradition of that area of people that it's just a way of life. So grew up doing that. Started hunting for deer when I was 12 years old. That's as early as you can hunt in Idaho back in those days, and chased deer around all the time. Just loved it. White-tailed deer, kind of a cagey critter. That's what we had to hunt there. And I got a little older and I was out bear hunting one time, sitting by this pond, thinking a bear's going to come in. I don't even, kids and their funny ideas, and I hear a bunch of brush cracking, and I thought, oh, that's got to be a bear making that much noise, right? So I had walked into this pond, probably about a mile in the dark. 14 years old by myself. You think of a 14-year-old this day and age going out in the woods by themselves. It's unheard of. I mean, I wouldn't want my kid doing that. But, I mean, that kind of gives you perspective of the way of life there. So my folks had dropped me off. I didn't have a driver's license. My old man had dropped me off out in the dark, out in the woods, all by myself. I had a rifle. And I went and hiked in and sat by this pond, and I hear all this brush cracking. And I thought, okay, here it is. I'm going to shoot a bear. And out walks elk, these 3 elk. 2 cows and a bull, and they go over and get a drink of water, and they play around, splash around. Well, it's not rifle elk season; it's rifle bear season, but it was actually archery elk season at the time. And I didn't have a bow to hunt elk. I'd never bow hunted elk before. So I watched him in amazement. I thinking, man, if I only had a bow and arrow, I could shoot that bull elk and I'd have my first elk, right? So they played around for a little bit and left. And I sat there for 4 or 5 hours waiting for a bear, and nothing showed up. And finally my pop came and picked me up, and so I was telling him about it. I'm like, okay, we got to go to town. I got to get some arrows and a bow and this and that, and I'm going to come back here tomorrow, and I'm going to get that elk. And he's like, we're not doing that. You can't kill an elk with a bow and arrow. So he didn't know much about bow hunting at all, at all. So... And I had no money. I was just a 14-year-old kid. So I'm like, well, I'm going to make money, and I'm going to save some money, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to kill an elk next year. So the following summer, worked all summer for farmers in the fields, bucking bales, they call it. You're putting up hay for the cattle to eat and stuff. Yep. And making $3 an hour or whatever. So I worked all summer and made enough money to buy a whole hunting rig, all the bow and arrows, broadheads, release, the camouflage clothing, everything that I needed to kill an elk. And my dad's could see I was pretty serious about this, and he still was pretty skeptical. He's like, well, I'll tell you what, if you shoot an elk, I'll give you money back for all that you spent on this. I'm like, all right. So opening day of bow season, we went to this, a friend of mine, and I went to this place we had scouted out. We knew there was elk there, and we got there, and the elk were they were running. It's in September, It's their breeding season, right? So these elk were bugling, vocalizing, and carrying on. And this bull, he had several cows, like 20 of them in a big group, and he was defending them against other bulls, right? So when you bugle at them, that bull gets pretty defensive and thinks, hey, stay away from my girls or I'll fight you. So we kind of bugled at him a bit and agitated him. And my friend, he kind of slipped out in this field. There's some really tall grass and kind of hunkered down. And when he went out there, he put his bow over his head like antlers. And this bull was like 200 yards away, and he's seen that. And that sucker come at a full run. And I'm like, oh no, he's going to get killed. And the elk ran right up to my friend, like steps away, just a few feet. And he just stared there at my friend in that tall grass. And then all of a sudden he bolted and ran off. I'm like, oh, he must have got him. But then pretty soon you could see bull started farting around with these cows and pushed him out of the field, and away they went. So my friend came back, and I said, what just happened? I missed. I'm like, how could you miss? He was standing right next to you. So right at that moment, I was hooked on it. So my friend and I, we hunted together the next day, and then he got in trouble. Teenage boys, he got in trouble, mouthed off to his old man or something, got grounded, couldn't go hunting. So my mom, I didn't have a driver's license yet. I was 15 years old. Had my mom drive me out to my hunting spot, and she sat there in the truck and waited. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go over here. So I start calling to these elk. These are some different elk that we'd messed with the other day, and this bull gets all pissed off, and he starts coming. I'm like, I think this is going to happen. And I'm standing on this old road, and this bull walks right up at 15 yards away, and just stands there, mad, ready to fight. And I shot him with my bow, and he ran off. And so my mom, she was sitting about a half a mile away, but she could hear it because it's really loud, when you're bugling. Right. She could hear the exchange between the elk and I. And I went back, and I'm like, I got him. And so she went home and told my dad, well, get your come along so we could load this thing up. Right. Get your come along and your $400 because he just got an elk. And my dad no way, you're putting me on. He couldn't believe it. But from that day on, elk hunting with a bow has been a passion for me, and it pretty much dominates my life. So
the funny thing is, I think I remember because you took a picture of that
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. And it was probably a year after I saw, I can't remember if it was your mom or somebody, and they showed me a picture of that. And you're a few years older than me, but I was like, man, that's and because I had moved to Lewiston, I think, and I was so envious of because you lived up there, and Dan Vanderpool, my other cousin on the other side, you guys both still lived up there, so you got to. I would get up there on like vacations or whatnot, but like I couldn't get up to the mountains even on a regular basis. So I was super fucking envious of dudes that were like going out there. No excuse, just a matter of like, man, how are those guys getting out there doing that? That is awesome. But I remember that picture because it was a big elk.
It was a pretty nice one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was my best elk for quite a while. It took a while for me to get over the hump to get a better one. So. Right. So kind of started things off with a bang.
So did your dad give you did he reimburse you?
He did. And he loved telling the story. He told everybody he knew the story, and which was pretty awesome. He was pretty proud. So
yeah, hell, I can only imagine like having a bet like that with your son and then your son winning. That's a proud moment. Yep. Well, and I guess that's the a good segue to how did you guys meet? How did you guys? You guys told me kind of a story. It was another person, right? Corey?
Yes. So Corey Jacobson is the third spoke of our wheel. And I worked with Corey at our jobs, and we were going down to Reno for the bugling contest. And so we all three rode down together, and that was the first time I had met and hung out with Dirk. And then it was just like, we got to hunt together.
Right.
So.
And how, so extreme elk, which, you guys started, was it matter of like how, tell me the story of this or the genesis story of extreme elk and how you decided, you know what, because it's not like you had started other magazines in the past, right?
Right.
And, what made you think you could do it, I guess?
Well, it just seems so simple. Why couldn't you do it? Why wouldn't somebody do it? Excuse me. Corey and I, when we first met in high school, it's like, wait, you hunt elk? Yeah, I hunt elk too. Immediately we thought, oh, hey, let's be friends and let's go elk hunting together.
Right.
So we're high school boys, and we go out for our first hunt after work or after school one day, and drive about an hour and a half out of town, and all by ourselves get out there, get this elk bugling off down in this deep, dark, nasty canyon, and we got a couple hours before dark, and we think, let's go after him, let's do it. So we chase around down there. We don't get the elk, but walking out in the dark, climbing out of this hole, 1,500 vertical feet out of this hole, we're just talking, ideas and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, you know what I don't like? All these magazines, they kind of bait you in on the cover. It says seven tips to bag the big buck or bag the big bull.
World record.
Or, and then you kind of read the story, and there's a lot of lackluster. So I'm like, there needs to be a magazine with like real tips, real tactics, real stories from normal everyday people, not some millionaire guy that went and paid $20,000 to go shoot an elk behind a high fence, but the common man and his struggles in the wilderness to harvest an elk and what it took to do it. And it may not be a world record, who cares, but it's all about the hunting experience. And anyhow we bounce these ideas back and forth back then, dumb kids, but that's where the first idea was born. We probably never talked about it again, really.
Right.
And then fast forward several years. What year did Corey start elk101.com, Donnie?
It was 2009.
2009. Corey starts this website called elk101.com. Cabela's wanted him to do an elk calling seminar there in Boise.
Right.
And they're like, he's like, well, are you guys going to pay me? Well, we're not going to pay you, but the people that show up can pay you, but you have to take the money somewhere else. So he set up this PayPal account and put a picture on there, and then people started asking all these questions, and he thought, well, you know what, I'm going to make a website. And it kind of turned out kind of a blog style website in the beginning, and then it just grew from that. He added on other people, writers telling their stories. We have kind of a small group of guys that like to send in their stories every year and kind of tell their stories, or maybe tips and tactics.
Right.
And then he built a forum on there, and so that way, new hunters and old hunters alike can gather at a common area and ask questions and bounce ideas back and forth, which was awesome. Because everybody, if anybody knows anything about forums, I mean, you can get on some, and people can be pretty nasty and judgmental, or like, hey, you can't ask that question. But everybody's super polite on the website. And anyway, things are going along, and I said, you know what you need? Now you got a really great platform to launch something. I said, we need to make the best elk hunting magazine that's ever been published. He's like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Well, tell me more. So started doing a lot of market research. You start looking up how many elk hunters nationwide there are.
How many elk hunters are there nationwide?
Man, the figure is not in my head exactly, but it exceeds 1 million.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
Wow.
You look at the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
Right.
They've got over 250,000 active members.
Wow.
And so that shows that people are passionate about elk hunting. And there were a lot of nice publications for hunting, but nobody really focused on the hunt.
Just elk.
Exactly, for the hunt of elk. The Elk
Right.
Foundation has their great publication. It's more conservation minded, but
Yeah.
we wanted something with more meat and potatoes on the elk, so we decided to do that. So we did all this market research. Then we met. One afternoon in the summer, we met in Council, Idaho, on a whim, and let's just meet there. And we put all of our information together, and like, yeah, I think we can do this. So we started building. We built from scratch. We had nothing. We didn't know a thing about publications.
Right.
So we talked to a few people, got some consultation from a lady on just magazine print, basically. We sourced around trying to find a graphic artist to put the magazine together, because you can have all the coolest content in the world, but it's got to look good in the magazine. So we went through 2 or 3 doors trying to find the right guy. We found a great guy that had a really creative eye and the ability to put it all together. Then we found a place to print it.
Where was it printed? In Boise?
It began getting printed in Portland.
Oh, okay.
And for some reason, the circulation center from the U.S. Mail out of Portland, customers were getting magazines eaten up. By the time they got there, it looked like they'd gone through war, right?
Huh.
So we found another source in Denver, Colorado, that did printing, and they were a larger print firm, and they could circulate a lot of it out of there. So took our hand out of circulating a lot of it. So,
right.
So we went with them, and that started working out a lot better for whatever reason. People's magazines weren't getting torn up, but anyhow, but before we even had the printer, we're like, we got to start building a buzz.
Yeah. How did you do that?
Well, I felt we feel pretty fortunate in this day and age of social media.
Yeah.
Because all the people that came before us as magazine publishers, I don't know. I mean, I guess they just went right to the newsstand and they'd stick it on the newsstand, maybe do some trade shows.
Right.
But with social media, we already had a platform with elk101.com on Facebook. Mm-hmm. So we started putting it out there. Some cool things are coming. You start giving little teasers of what's coming. So you kind of build a buzz. Mm-hmm. And we started this little campaign on there. And then some of the hunting forums that Corey and I were both very active in, commenting and talking on these forums. And we started putting stuff out there. And as we would get more stuff compiled for the magazine, we would trickle it out, and people are like, oh my gosh, this is great. What's next? We can't wait. Tell us more. So finally we got all of our stuff lined out. We got our artists, our graphic artists. We had enough content from Corey and I and some folks that had sent their stories to us.
Right.
And then we got it all compiled, and then we had our big launch, and it was exceeded our expectations on the launch by far, just because we were able to reach so many people in a social media platform that it took right off.
Yeah. So, and do you remember your numbers when you first started it, as far as like the opening circulation?
We printed 10,000 issues. Right. After we'd circulated to the newsstand and then subscribers, we didn't have very many in our pocket to deal with after that. So then it was scramble time. But we would try to, and you kind of want to plan ahead, especially with magazines. So you want to have your format and everything lined out for the next year. Right. So we had already, after the first issue, we were already working on the second, third, and fourth, compiling information. So then it built after that. Also, something that really helped us launch this thing was going to trade shows. Right about the time we launched, on social media, we started going to trade shows. Mm-hmm. Right here in Salt Lake City at the Western Hunting Expo was our very first trade show. And if anybody's never been there, it's one of the best hunting trade shows you can go to, because it's all hunting. There's no ShamWows and chrome polish at this place. It's all hunting stuff. A lot of like-minded people there, sharing their passions. And when they saw this new magazine, they thought, whoa, this is cool. This is different. Yeah. And that really helped out a lot too. So we sold subscriptions at the trade show. So we did 6 the first year, 6 trade shows, and then every year after that we'd 4 to 6. We tried to keep it in there.
Yeah, that's where I ran into you a couple years ago there. Yeah. And I bought a subscription when I was there. And I was a fan of the magazine. It was, like my dad said, he had a subscription. I had a subscription. I'd bring it in, and guys would read it in the office, and then the other guys down because I was still in the military, they would read it. The funny thing is, I was in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and I walked into my buddy's office, and your magazine was sitting on his desk, and I was like, "Man, that's cool. That is cool." Yeah, it was really cool. And the guy was like, "Oh, man, I love this magazine. Do you know these guys?" And I was like, "Yeah, these guys are out of Idaho." I was like, "Yeah, actually, I do kind of know one of those dudes."
We had a lot of subscribers. We sent a lot of magazines overseas to bases and such like that. And it takes a little bit of hoops to jump through to get those magazines over there too. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of guys, like if they were like me, I would deploy, and I would think about the things that I wanted to do when I got home. That's what I would. So magazines were kind of one of those things where, guys think that all you'd look at is pornography or something overseas. It's like, I absolutely didn't look at hardly any pornography unless it was in 2-minute sections, right? Yeah. It was like all the stuff that I wanted to do, or the things that were like, oh, that's cool. That's in Utah or Colorado or Idaho or wherever I wanted to do when I got back. And everybody was thinking about either the cars that they wanted to drive, or the elk they wanted to shoot, or the deer that they wanted to, whatever it was. That's the way that gosh, magazines were like a source of life, because everything was dead out there, dark, not dark, but sanded, flat and urban area. It's like just opening up a magazine with, the mountains of Idaho kind of put you right back into the middle of home. Yeah.
Yeah. Soothing.
Yeah. Very soothing. Yeah. So how long did you work with that publication?
So let's see. We just sold it a year and a half ago, I believe. Oh, okay. We started off in 2012. Right. We kicked it off in 2012, and then we just sold the publication a year and a half ago to one of our competitors. So.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a business principle that people take, actually. So one of my other friends, he's like, well, I started this, nursing staffing company with my wife, but the overall objective was actually just to piss off the guy that owned the entire region. And I started taking his market share, so they would buy me. Actually, that was his goal from the very beginning. Yeah. He's like, it took me about 18 months, and then I brought him to the table. They wrote me a check for the company, and I was like, so you started a company with the objective to just piss somebody off to fucking buy you, which I thought was actually very brilliant. Yeah. I'd never heard of that tactic before. So did you guys start with that objective? Or
no, we didn't. No.
There was nothing else out there. There was no other elk hunting magazine. Right. Mm-hmm. But it so happens that two people had the same idea, that we both came out with an elk hunting magazine that started the same month.
Same month. Yeah, right before we launched this thing.
Holy shit.
Then the competitor, which we knew the guys well, they said, hey, can we talk?
Right.
We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do this elk hunting magazine too.
Right.
And we're like, oh, wow. Holy cow. I mean, after all this time, of never being a strict elk hunting magazine.
Yeah. Now there's
two people wanting to do it. So we talked back and forth, and talked to ideas, and maybe we could do something together.
Right.
And, and it seemed like their platform was a little bit different than ours. Mm-hmm. I thought, well, let's just stay the course, and there'll be a lot of people that love theirs, and there'll be a lot of people that love ours, and we'll just do our different things. So, which we maintain a good relationship with those guys the whole time. And, after a few years, we talked over the years of, what about this, what about that? And then it just kind of came together, made sense to merge them together. Right. So they made us an offer, and we worked it out, and they took it over, and they just basically combined everything, all of our stuff, into their magazine, mm-hmm. and they just kept rolling with theirs.
Right. So does it exist anymore as Extreme Elk, or is it completely rolled under there?
It turned into Elk Hunter Magazine.
Okay.
That was the other company. So.
And when you guys were out, I guess, on the road, kind of trying to grow the subscription base, what did you find was the most successful the most successful means to grow your subscription base? Was it the trade shows? Was it social media? Was it a different form of advertising? How did you grow your subscription base?
I think the social media and forums was the way to go. We would pay to advertise on the forum. Mm-hmm. And then, we'd always put stuff out there. What's going to happen next? What's up next in Extreme Elk Magazine?
Right.
And the cost and the amount of energy to put that out there versus trade shows is night and day. Because trade shows, you're building a booth, you're paying for all the cool stuff to put in your booth, right? And that takes a lot of work, just setting it up.
Yeah.
Just to acquire the stuff, right? Mm-hmm. First, then you have to drive halfway across the Northwest to a show for a 4 or 5 day show. You have all your expenses.
Yeah.
To pay for a booth and just food, lodging, and everything else. So, and then just standing in a booth all day, that takes a lot of energy. So the best buck, is totally social media by far.
Right.
But on the other hand, people love to see the people they're making the magazine. They want to come and see the people face to face, and you can get that kind of interaction, and they're like, yeah, those guys are just normal guys like us, and for us, we just love to hear all the feedback and their hunting story. They'd come and tell you hunting story. Some 12-year-old kid would come and tell you about how he got an elk that year, and it's awesome. It was just uplifting. So it's kind of a trade-off, the social media. You get a lot of personal touch there, but nothing like the face-to-face interaction at trade shows.
Yeah, that's one thing I found just as a marketing, from a marketing perspective, is, we have a higher conversion rate, right? Which is, the face-to-face, when you're talking to people about a product, mm-hmm. you'll get a really high conversion rate because I think people see you as an individual. Mm-hmm. It's less traffic, obviously. You might be converting, let's say, 10% versus 3% on your website, but you can only do it one person at a time.
Right.
And, but it is way more enjoyable. The 2 hour or the 2 days or something that you might spend, like when I'm at SHOT Show, for instance, I think I slept 5 hours that week. And you know, I come out of there looking like, you know, I just escaped from Auschwitz. And purposely last SHOT Show, I didn't have an ounce, like a drop to drink until it was done, because the previous year I went out, like, you know, on day 2 and had a couple drinks, and then it ruined the rest of the week.
Yeah,
you're working behind the power curve, and people don't realize, dude, you're still a salesman at the end of the day, and it takes a lot of fucking energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's brutal.
Yeah, to keep that smile on your face and be high energy and positive. I mean, it's exhausting, but
no, it's brutal. And so now, you know, can you say what you grew the subscription to when you sold, or is that kind of proprietary or classified?
Yeah, we don't like to talk about that really,
but you guys grew it obviously.
We grew it to where it was big enough that we were going to have to make some serious decision on sinking some big money into having more resources as far as people helping with the magazine,
right?
You know, through fulfillment, through contributing, so on and so forth.
Grew into an animal that we just had to release to a farm that could take care of it. Because
Corey, he handled 90% of the day-to-day basics of this magazine. I did a lot on the other side, and a lot of the social media presence, and it's a lot of work. And then you finally just outgrow what 2 people can do, and then you lean on guys like Donnie. He helped out with fulfillment a ton, and you have contributing editors that write and stuff, and that you know, and to keep the flow going and people writing stories and stuff. It was exhausting, and it became the next step was right there, and it came at a good time. You know, our elk hunter, they made us some offers. We made us some offers that, you know, just made sense at the time. And also, you know, after going through, you know, people say print's dead. You know, I think there's always going to be a place for print, because people love that tangible thing in their hand. You can take it to the crapper, you can take it to elk camp, whatever, but digital is huge, you know, and that is the future. So we had some ideas that, like, you know, maybe we can shift our focus to the digital platform, and get back to basics at elk101.com to use that platform and expand. So, and
the ultimate goal is, we like hunting, and we want to be Elk 101 is like English 101, Math 101. It's teaching others how to be able to elk hunt, and going off of resources that from guys that have been successful doing it, and showing those that want to get into it how they can do it as well without having to struggle through all the hardships that all these other guys have gone through. And we all enjoy the same thing, and we all want each other to be successful. So we're just sharing that knowledge and putting it together into a package that is kind of everything that there is to know about elk hunting. And that wrapped up into something that is now called the University of Elk Hunting that Corey put together, and it's literally everything that we know about elk hunting.
It's everything from soup to nuts on it. I mean, it's A to Z, from where am I going to find an elk? Right down to, okay, I've found one, I've shot one. How am I going to get this sucker out of the woods? And, you know, without letting the meat spoil, so on and so forth. So it's a very in-depth, detailed guide to elk hunting, basically. So
are you guys doing a lot of video content on that? Is that like how-tos specifically around that?
Absolutely.
I think there's
I believe there's 70
videos.
Wow.
70 video details. There's over 120,000 written words. That's basically 2 novels worth of information. And it's easy, and tons of pictures. I don't know how many pictures, but it's easy to read it, watch a video, look at the diagrams, understand. You know, it shaves off the learning curve of elk hunting tremendously. It puts together a lot of the dots. It may take some people years to do that through trial and error, because like we were talking earlier, Evan, you said, I get a week, a year to go hunting and hone my skills, but then it's another year until you get to try it again. Well, in that week, there's a lot of trial and error. And then it takes years of trial and error to figure out, unless you just get lucky. So this outlines basically A to Z elk hunting, and it really helps trim down the learning curve on it. You still have to put in the work. You still got to get out and put the ideas and the things into practice. But it's been really well received. We've had a ton of people give positive feedback where, oh my gosh, I've been hunting elk for 10 years and I've never been able to put it together until I took this course, and now it all makes sense. It clicks. I see what I've been doing that wasn't being productive, and now it's working great, and I got my first elk. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I could see that instantly. Not instantly, when I kind of was backdoored into it, which was, you were doing the magazine, and then we talked about it, I think, a couple years ago. So I started taking a look at it, and really I was working on a lot of the content for Ready Man around that same time. Yeah. And it was very similar in some regards, which was, hey, I just want to establish a system for somebody that doesn't know how to shoot, for instance, and they could come in and take a look at our instructional videos, and from there they could start to put the pieces together, and it's all, video, it's somewhat interactive. We got, webinars every month where, you can get in and ask us questions, and I really liked what you guys were doing over there. I mean, I've taken a look at it, admittedly, for a couple months, but everything you guys put together was super top notch as far as the information. The thing I really liked about it was exactly what you said. There's not any fluffy prose and bullshit. It's like, I just need the information, man. Like, I don't need you to talk to me about, like, the dew on the grass, and unless it's related to something that's going to help me. Like, oh yeah, you need to put this pattern in, or whatever it might be. And I was talking to one of the guys up in Bountiful. I keep forgetting this. It's an archery store in Bountiful, and
we don't know,
dude. But these guys were huge fans. Like, they were, because I went up and I filmed this thing for Ready Man. It was like how to just choose the correct bow. That's it.
Right.
And it turned into a 45-minute piece that I broke into 3 different sections, 3 different 15-minute sections, explaining the difference between a compound bow, a traditional bow, and walking myself through it, because I didn't know a damn thing about it, but I wanted to. And so, I started when I started that, I'd referenced, I think, your guys' site, and the guy was like, "Oh man, I love that site." And this dude's hunted for I don't know how many years, and he works in a pro shop, like selling bows. So you guys must be doing something right over there.
Yeah, and it's the entire University of Elk Hunting. Somebody that has never hunted elk before, back east, wherever, grew up in the city instead of the hills, they can go through the entire contents of it and be able to step out into the hills on opening day with some confidence on knowing what they're doing.
Right.
But at the same time, we've had people that have hunted longer than we have and been more successful than we have that are like, I didn't know this.
Right.
That it provides something for the whole spectrum of elk hunters, that there's always something to learn. And that's, we learn stuff every year still as we go along. So it's a good resource for that.
Yeah, there's a ton of takeaway for the new elk hunter or the seasoned elk hunter, the seasoned vet. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff there.
Well, I think it's cool because, and kind of to put the capstone on this, which we're at 39 minutes, which is we're about 9 minutes over, but that's fine. I think that the interesting about this is you guys are subject matter experts in a field, and you went into the publication world not knowing a lot about publication, just knowing that there wasn't a lot out there, but you wanted to put that into the market. And it was interesting. I think when you guys launched that, I was like, God, that's brilliant. Yeah, this is perfect. Because you're right, there was all like the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. They released that. Was it once a quarter? Or is it every month?
Quarterly.
Yeah. And you're right. It's about conservation. It's about, it's a different side of things. And the other stuff that you could see, didn't seem very authentic. It's like, okay, so these dudes went on a hunt in New Mexico on a ranch. Yeah. This dude's not a hunter. And when I say that, it's like he's too clean. There's just a lot of things there where, I like to get in the field and feel it. Like I want to feel it. I want to be out there for, 3 days and 4 or 5 or whatever it is, feel the remoteness of it, the solitude. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go to a ranch with a guide, to be honest with you. It just doesn't really feel interesting whatsoever to me. So
there's a place for that. There's people that do love that. But from day one, our whole premise has been regular type people, the everyday Joes like us, doing what they love on public land, do it yourself type hunting,
Well, awesome, guys. Thanks a lot for showing up for Black-Hearted here in Salt Lake City. Absolutely. And go check them out, elk101.com. You guys, where else can they find you guys?
We're on Instagram and Facebook. Just check us out, elk101.com.
And is it just at elk101? Is that Instagram?
Elk101, yeah.
Cool.
Yep. And I'm on there on Instagram as The Bugler.
That's right.
And on Facebook as Dirk Durham.
Cool.
I'm on there as Eat, Sleep, Hunt Elk.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. But no, it's been good. It's been great being on.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. And this is Black-Hearted.
BlackRifle Coffee Company, along with Arson Wave, would like to thank you for tuning in to Black-Hearted. Have a great fucking day.